My name is Simon Brown, and today we're going to be looking at placing a trade on the online share trading platform. If time permits, I'll pop over to Iris and we can have a look at that as well. And I see some folks are talking about the Auto Share Invest. I'm going to be doing a dive into that, but I'm going to do it separately as it sits as its own. For those who are saying, what's Auto Share Invest? That is a platform to buy and sell shares that sits within Standard Bank Internet Banking and offers a wide but not complete range of the shares available on the JSE. But we'll delve into that in separate. In the immediate, let's get to. So here we're looking at the what we call the quote page. We've done the video on that. You'll find it on our YouTube channel where all the other bits and pieces are. I just want to try and get more of this showing. There we go. And we've gone through details of what we're looking at all the different spaces here. The email which goes out reminding you about these events has got the links to the YouTube channel in it. You'll find it there. And how I got to the quote page was by literally putting in SBK, which is Standard Bank's code, and I hit quote, and here I am now. There are two ways I could get to the trade page, but there's a third, and I'll show you that from the portfolio. I could have hit the trade button rather than the quote button up at the top there. And when I'm in the quote page, I can then say, actually, show me let's rather go to the trade page. Let's quickly go home and I'll show you from the portfolio view. See, here's a portfolio, and what you can do is across here, you've got all your different various actions as well, which the little sort of dollar bill button would take me to a trade page of a stock that I already had in a portfolio. But let's stick with Standard Bank for now, and let's click on the trade button. And let me zoom out a bit. I'll go back in. You'll see broadly divided into two different parts. On the right-hand side is where top right is where you would input the data and information around the transaction as you want to do, buy or sell. We'll come to all of this in a moment. And then below that, it tells me what my projected costs will be. I then need to enter my password, obviously, to do the trade. On the left-hand side, it's confirming that we're looking at Standard Bank, the listed equity on the JSE. Below that is showing me the current bids and offers on Standard Bank. Important, it shows you 5 deep. So it shows you the 5 best buy prices and the 5 best sell prices. If you look at the sells that sell at 97.70, you'll see under ord it says 3. What that tells you is how many orders make up that volume of 2,589 shares for the 97 Rand 70. And in that case, 3. For us, it's largely moot. We're going to trade, and I'm going to come to that in a moment and explain why I say it's largely moot. Also important that this is the full JSE order book. How the process works, when I enter a trade to buy or sell a particular share on the JSE, it takes all of those orders and they get sent to the JSE. The JSE collates them into a central order book and then sends them back to the various stockbrokers. So we're not just looking at standard online share trading clients here, we are looking at the entire market. It then just gives us a bit of brief underlying. Today, Standard Bank's up 4.29 or 4.6%. Yesterday, Standard Bank was up 17 cents or 0.18%. And then it shows us the last 10 trades. Now, those 10 trades happened in literally seconds and were timestamped for when I came onto this page, which was 10:32, gives you a sense of the volume going through. In less liquid shares, those last 10 trades could be spread over hours, maybe even days or weeks. Obviously, in the example with Standard Bank, which is a highly liquid share, what you're going to do is essentially get the last couple, which will be sort of a minute or so. So we want to do a trade here. Oh, let me quickly come back to the order book and why I say the quantity is moot. So what happens when you buy shares? Obviously, there's brokerage and there's minimums and all those other bits. Now, I'll come to that all details in a sec. But what's most important is that if you buy Standard Bank 3 times on the same day, whether it's one trade that takes 3 trades to full, or it is, I mean, let's say you wanted to buy 4,000 Standard Bank shares and you said 97.70. What would happen is you would buy at 97.62, 97.66, 97.68, and then 97.70, and you would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You would effectively do 6 trades to get those shares. What happens is online share trading bulks that up and makes it one transaction. So the minimums all get bulked together, etc. You don't pay a minimum per trade, and that's because you're buying, in this case, let's say you were buying 2,000 shares. You don't know how many people you will or won't be trading against, part fills, etc., etc. So as long as it's the same share, same direction, in other words, all buys or sells, and same day, Standard Bank bulks that up and makes it as one trade so that you can hit the minimum trades, etc. And we'll come to that in a bit. So Standard Bank, I can buy or sell. My current position is 0, as we can see there. So I am unable to sell any shares, but obviously I can be a buyer of shares. So let's put a buy order in. I click the buy button, and then I'm going to say the number of shares to trade. Now, in this case, I'm going to say 400 shares. I'll show you why. They're showing an approximate number of 378, but I'm going to be sneaky. Now we come down to the price you wish to pay. You've essentially got two options, at market or limit. At market says you'll pretty much buy the shares at whatever the best price is available in the market. Now, that best price at 10:32, which was 4 minutes ago, was 97.62. Let's quickly refresh this page and see we're now at 97.55. So actually, we would have got a slightly better price if we had done an at market, a slightly better price than was illustrated. So at market basically says, I wish to buy those shares and I'll buy them at the price at which there are sellers. In other words, you're indiscriminate about the price. I mean, you've got a sense that 97.55 might disappear before your order gets into market and you might get the 97.56 or maybe even the 97.65, depending on volume and depending on how the market in particular is moving. It's fine on high liquid stocks, so top 40 shares, not a problem. As soon as we move into the second tier, lower liquidity stocks, then it becomes risky because there might be some really wide bids and offers, etc., which is why we then bring a potential limit pricing. Limit says, I want to buy or sell, but I don't want to buy or sell above or below a certain price. So we're on the buy side. I said I'm going to be looking to buy 400 shares, my limit price, and now I can set a limit price. Now, I could set the limit price at 97.60, and then I'll get the 97.55 and 56 if they are still in the market when I get there. Inversely, I could set the limit price at anything I wanted. I could set it at 97.53, and I could try and get between the current best buy and best sell prices. Or, as what I'm going to do for illustrative purposes, I'm going to go and say, you know what, I want to buy this share at 88 Rand. On the nose, 88 Rand. So some way down on where we're currently seeing the price. And I'm going to say 88 Rand, I want to buy Standard Bank, but I don't want to pay a cent more for Standard Bank than 88 Rand. That is the value that I think is a good buy price for Standard Bank. We can truthfully put any price you want. Will you get traded at it? Well, it depends of buyers. I could put an 88 Rand price in, and Standard Bank might never come back to 88 Rand. Inversely, there might be other people ahead of me at the queue at 88 Rand. If we look at these sellers at 97.65, there are two of them. Whoever got there first in terms of the 97.65 price will trade first. And then the person who got at that price point second will then trade their shares if there is sufficient volume. This is all going to obviously be dependent on the volume. I then have a choice of life of trade. Good for day, good for month. Now, what that means is good for day is that if it hasn't traded by the close of business today, it'll automatically cancel. Or if it is only part traded. For example, I've looked for 400 shares, maybe I only get 100, and then there are 300 still on buy at 88 Rand. So at the end of the period, what hasn't traded will automatically be cancelled at the close of trade on that day, typically 5 o'clock, except for Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve where the market closes at midday. Good for month is exactly the same rule, but for a much longer period in that it is for a month rather than for a day. What we see as we head further down is the costs involved. So projected cost share at bid price. Now in this case, I've put in a fixed price of 88. So at 88 Rand, I'm going to pay 35,200 Rand, and that will be to purchase the shares. Security transfer tax, 0.25% on the purchase side of equities only, not included in ETFs, is 88 Rand. Straight, which is a fixed amount unless you're doing very large transactions. Brokerage, which is 0.5% or 110 Rand. Let's say I only wanted to buy 4 Standard Bank shares. You'll notice this updates in real time. My straight stays the same. My security transfer tax reduced 100-fold because I'm buying 4 instead of 400. But my brokerage then hit the minimum. And that minimum is 110 Rand or 0.5%, whichever is greater. Now, how do we get to make that minimum? Essentially, you've got to do 22,000 Rand transaction, and then your 0.5% is 110 Rand. In this case, I'm wanting to do 400 shares. So my brokerage will be 176 Rand. I'm then charged VAT. VAT is on brokerage and straight, in this case, 27 Rand and some cents. And then investor protection levy, which is in this case 7 cents. So really, really quite tiny. Overall projected cost, 35,501 Rand and 3 cents. Quick back of Matchbox. What we can see is that 301 Rand and 3 cents. So a little under 1% of the is in terms of costs, and then available in account, so then money left over. I then say, do I want an SMS when this trade matches? Yes or no? You tick the box and enter your password, which is the same password as you use for logging in, and I use a password manager, so I hope that I get my password right. Importantly, if you're doing as I am with an 88 Rand or something like that, you might want to request the SMS, because what happens is you might trade some shares at 88, but then the balance don't come through. So say I got 200 of them, but if I change my order to buy at 88.10, I might get the balance. So that SMS becomes more important. I'm truthfully not expecting this to trade this morning, but let's put it into the market. I get a pop-up box that says, please confirm you want to buy 400 Standard Bank shares, price 88 cents, life of trade 29 May. Click OK. That order has now been received by Standard Bank and will be sent into the market. And we might then be able to see it here. Although I'm getting a internet fun and games right now. Let me refresh that page and see if that gives me better. And there it just confirms that your order has gone into the market. Order's been received, attended to as soon as possible, gives you a transactions reference number. Again, tells me what I'm looking at. Also tells me where I can go and find that order status to see. So my account, order status, because I'm looking at normal orders. And there are my 400 shares sitting on the market ready to trade. Now, they're not going to trade because currently the price is 98.27. And here over on Iris, I will be able to see, I mean, I've got to go a long way. There is a truckload of orders between the current price and 88, and there I am. So actually there are 8 of us wanting to buy at 88. So that's 89 Rand. It's moving so fast. Yep, there are 8 of us wanting to buy at 88 Rand for a total volume of and it's moving around at a heck of a pace. Where are we? There we are, 3558 shares, 3,588 shares. So my order is currently sitting in the market, and if Standard Bank between now, and I gave it a month, so 29 May, trades down to 88 Rand, I'm in the queue, but I'm at the back of the queue for 88 Rand. I'll have to go through 88 because there are people at a better, who got in at the same price, but essentially got in ahead of me. What I can also do here is request to cancel the trade. So I can request a trade SMS because at this point I didn't request. I can update that. What I can now do is say, changed my mind. I don't want the 400 Standard Banks. And what they do is they say they will attempt to cancel the trade. And the reason why it's an attempt is because maybe some of those shares have already traded in between you're saying cancel or before you even hit the cancel and the order being processed. Truthfully, it takes seconds, but it could have happened. So they do say if it's outside of trading hours, in other words, if it's before 9 o'clock in the morning or after 5 o'clock in the afternoon, well, no problem, market is closed. But during trading hours, it might actually fail. So what we've got is we attempted to do it, and then we will get an order status, and there we can go, and we can now see it is a failed order to buy 400 Standard Banks, 29.1045. Order was cancelled. So that order has gone through and been cancelled. So that's the buying the shares on the platform. If I wanted to buy them directly on the Iris platform, really, really quite simple. I just basically hit the ask and it will pre-populate. Now, what I did is I hit ask, so it basically took me at the best price, which was at that point 99.71. The share is running, so that has changed, obviously. Ignore some of the stuff which you're not seeing. I've got a test, a beta version here. I can now go and manually change the order. I can say, actually, I only wanted 400 shares, and the price I wanted to pay was 800. And then I go and pick the particular account that I want to trade in, and I can then submit the order via Iris as well. So I can bang it through via Iris. If I'm in my Aussie page, I can actually have a trade ticker, which in this case I've set up for trading. What is this? This is for trading ORMI. And I can preload here as well, and then select, do I want to be a buyer or do I want to be a seller? And then put your various different details into the equation as well. So we can come at it from a couple of different ways. If it's in your portfolio, to buy more or exit, you hit the little sort of dollar, looks like a dollar note icon. Otherwise, either from the top icon up here, the shares, you hit the trade button, or if you're on the quote page, you hit the relevant trade button at the same time, and you will be good to go. Let's check. There's some questions coming through. Let me close that. Yeah, I want to exit that. Let's see questions. Funds held in OST are invested in money market or JSE trustees. How do you move funds between those two options? Mike, great question. Short answer. I'm not sure. For almost ever in a day, money market was better than JSE trustees, as you point out, not. So worth moving across to the trustee option. I imagine you're going to have to contact online share trading. It could be on the preferences page. If you go under my account, my details preferences. I'm not going to go there because suddenly it'll disclose my tax number and all the other bank accounts, etc. It might be an option there. My advice to you, contact the call center, drop them an email, securities@standardbank.co.za. Bill, I'm confused how limit order differ from trailing order and stop order. So great point there. So what you're talking around in terms of trailing and stop losses, they are typically to protect your capital when you win. And we're going to run through the whole process of stop losses, how to set them up, distinctions between trailing stop loss and the like. But a limit order is when you're purchasing. And it will then say, in terms of buy but don't pay more than X. So I said, buy me Standard Bank shares, but I don't want to pay more than 88 Rand for them. Or you could say, sell me Standard Bank shares, but don't sell them for less than a certain price. Trailing and stop orders are literally part of the stop loss. Don, yes, I have a number of different accounts. So some of them are just practically futures accounts. Some of them are tax-free accounts and the like, and warrant account, and so all the different variances, etc., etc. Some of them you would open under my account product registration, and there, if you were looking for CFDs, options, tax-frees, etc., etc. If you just want a general vanilla, another vanilla BDA account, contact Standard Online Share Trading, securities at standardbank.co.za. They can set it up for you. You can move shares between accounts, but that is a process that the call center has to do for you. You can move cash in real time between accounts. Fred, how do you place a short trade? Can you short a share when you already own that specific counter? So you can't do equity shorts. You've got to do shorts either via warrants, which are options, single stock futures, or contracts for difference to short. And so what you're saying is, you own a share, you want to short it. No, you can only short the shares via derivative structures. You can't just do what we would call an ungeared short. That's part of the JSE process. Mike, I've been in over a week. My private banker able to contact anyone in OST. Mike, I know that their call center had to work from home, and I know that meant that no telephones. So as I understand, email only option right now. And I don't know what happens come Monday in terms of level 4 lockdown. I don't know if some of them start moving back, but they've been email only, and that is the securities at standardbank.co.za. Andy, you're asking about the share J500. I see the chart, however, unable to purchase. I honestly don't know what the J500 is, so let's find out. So J500 is the oil and gas. So what you're looking at, it starts with a J, which tells you it's an index. So J500.JSC is an index. J500T.JSC is the oil and gas total return index. In other words, it also includes dividends that have been paid out. And indices are directly not tradable with two exceptions. You can go and trade the Aussie index, which is essentially the J200, which is what I'm trading over here. J200, and this is the Aussie June contract, which is a futures contract on the top 40 index, which is J200. Or alternatively, there are ETFs issued on a number of the indices, such as property, mid-cap, top 40, Indy, Resi, Fini, Swix, and then a whole bunch of local and offshore. What there isn't, however, is any index on the J500, any ETF on the J500. The J500 in of itself, if it is the oil and gas index, it's probably only two stocks. And those two stocks are Sasol and maybe SAC Oil. Let me see if I can find it here. List of indices. We seem to be slightly back. Up there we go. We're back. Sorry, my internet died. I've switched across to LTE. Not ideal. Oil and gas. I'm not even seeing it here. It is such a. There it is. Oil and gas. So there's the oil and gas. I click on oil G. Oh, it's not even Sasol. So oddly enough, oil and gas index is frankly just Montrac, which is a South African listed, was part of HCI. They do gas from waste material in the US. So in that particular case, you can't buy the J500, but there's only one stock in that index, and you could buy that individual share. I found that, sorry, we were offline. Market info, list of indices, and then if you click under that second column there, it shows you the stocks that are actually in that index. The other way of doing it is also, for example, I thought maybe Sasol was there. We can go down and see which Sasol is in, so base materials or share. I don't know what the CES is, the Resi and the top 10, and the CES is it's chemicals. Mark, if you open a CFD account, will SB open a separate account in your portfolio? Yeah, so what you do is you go to My Account, you go to Product Registration, you go to CFD Registration, and what you're saying is enable CFDs on the existing account. In other words, use one of your existing account, or apply for a separate contract for a different account. And if you did that today, it would then tick over by tomorrow morning. Subject to it's, as I say, subject to, I don't know, them being busy, but essentially that account will then click over. And then what happens is when you go to your homepage and your trade screens, etc., you've got the drop down with a bunch of different accounts there. Yeah, sound is coming in and out a bit. I'm appreciating that because there are my internet died. They're doing work on my fiber connection this morning, so I had to switch across. I'm recording. Video will be up shortly. Last question coming through. If I'm placing a trade via Iris, who's it from? Sheila. If I'm placing a trade on Iris, does it still go to the JSE order book? Yeah, Sheila, JSE central order book. It will still hit that central order book and come up on that space there. No different from if you were trading it anywhere else. Ladies and gents, we're bumping up against the half hour, and I'm not seeing any more coming through, any more questions. The public holidays one more public holiday this Friday, and then public holidays have disappeared. So normal schedule will resume for our Monday podcast with Danae, Wednesday with myself looking at different uses of the platform, and then Fridays looking at different funds. Next Friday, I'm going to be looking at offshore health stock ETFs. I'm getting a lot of questions around that. And we'll take that, and that will be next Friday. But normalcy returns with Easter and all the other public holidays gone. Ladies and gents, we'll leave it there for now. Everyone, have a great day further. Stay safe. Cheers all.